A country did not become English America because England was first. It was not. Spain was already rich in the New World. France was pushing deep into the continent. And England spent years failing before one starving settlement finally found the crop that saved it. So, how did the English go from failed colonies and lost settlers to the 13 colonies that later became the United States? To understand that, start with the question England had to answer first. Why colonize at all? In 1584, Richard Hakluyt laid out the case in a work known as the Discourse on Western Planting. His argument was not just about land. It was about religion, money power, and people England did not know what to do with. Hakluyt claimed that English colonization would serve England, but also serve God. Protestant England, he argued, had a mission to push back against Catholic Spain and its grip over much of the New World. England and Spain were already rivals for more than religious reasons, but the religious language made the cause sound righteous and urgent. There were practical reasons too. England had many poor, unemployed, and landless people. Colonies could offer them land work and a chance to become useful to the nation. New trade routes could bring profit. New resources could make England richer. And Spanish success across the Atlantic made the English jealous. So England entered the contest, but not at first through peaceful settlements. Queen Elizabeth used sea dogs, sailors who practiced privateering, a legal form of piracy, when the crown approved it. Two famous names were John Hawkins and Francis Drake. They attacked Spanish ships, stole treasure, and raided Spanish interests even as far as the coast of Peru. This was not just random piracy. It was England testing Spanish power without formally conquering territory. It let England strike at Spain's wealth. While learning the Atlantic world, Spain had tried to dominate. Spain was furious. The rivalry grew worse after England executed Mary Queen of Scots in 1587. The next year, King Philip II of Spain launched a massive invasion force against England. His goal was to smash the English navy, which was vital to England's trade and colonial future. The Spanish Armada carried about 18,000 soldiers, 8,000 sailors, and 130 ships. On paper, it looked terrifying. But the English had ships better suited for the fight. They pushed the Armada back, and as the Spanish fleet tried to regroup, a storm tore through what remained. England survived. Spain's image of invincibility cracked, and now England could look again toward America. But early English colonization was a disaster. Sir Humphrey Gilbert tried to establish a colony in Newfoundland and failed. Then, in 1587, John White went to Roanoke Island with about 150 colonists. The settlement quickly struggled with supplies. White returned to England to get help, expecting to come back soon. But the crisis with the Spanish Armada trapped him in England for over a year. When he finally returned to Roanoke, the colony was gone. No thriving settlement, no clear answer, just disappearance. By the start of the 17th century, England still had no stable colony in America. Queen Elizabeth died in 1603 and the project passed to King James. In 1604, England made peace with Spain. Then in 1606, King James created the Virginia Company, launching a new attempt at colonization. 3 ships sailed to the East Coast: the Discovery, the Susan Constant, and the Godspeed. In the spring of 1607, they reached the James River in Virginia and founded Jamestown. This became the first permanent English colony in America. At the same time, King James also chartered the Plymouth Company, but its Popham colony collapsed quickly. Jamestown did not collapse, but survival there was brutal. The men who arrived had imagined opportunity, but the reality was mud sickness, hunger, and hard work. They were not ready for the labor required to build a colony from nothing. The land was not as easy to use as they had hoped, and the settlement almost died before it ever became useful to England. By 1617, only 351 of the initial 17,000 colonists remained alive. The settlers were badly prepared for the reality of hard, physical labor. The land was not as easy to farm as they had imagined. Many starved. Others died from disease. Without help from the local native people, the English might have vanished completely. The colonists knew the powerful native group nearby as the Powhatan Confederacy. Powhatan's people numbered roughly 10,000 and knew the Chesapeake region far better than the newcomers. They understood how to hunt, farm, and survive in difficult terrain. At first, they were willing to help the weak and sick English settlers, partly because trade with the colonists could bring useful manufactured goods. But the relationship did not stay peaceful. Even with native assistance, Jamestown continued to suffer. In 1609, 400 new settlers arrived, and the colony's condition still spiraled downward. Hunger, disease, and desperation continued. Meanwhile, relations with Powhatan's people worsened. Fighting broke out in raids and guerrilla conflict. Jamestown looked close to failure. A major turning point came in 1614. Pocahontas, the daughter of Powhatan, married the English colonist, John Rolfe. This helped ease tension for a time. But the colony's real rescue came from something else: tobacco. Tobacco was native to the New World and Europeans wanted it badly. Once Jamestown began exporting it, demand exploded. Within 40 years, the colony was sending 15 million pounds of tobacco to Europe each year. Suddenly, Jamestown was no longer just a starving settlement. It was a business, and a profitable one. Tobacco changed everything. The colony needed more workers, more land, and more expansion. As Jamestown grew, English settlers pushed beyond their original borders. That expansion brought them back into direct conflict with native people. After Powhatan died, his brother took power. In 1622, he decided to drive the English out. On March 22nd, his forces attacked the colony and killed 347 colonists in a single day. To the English, this became justification for years of brutal retaliation. From this point, the English approach to colonizing America became much harsher. It was different from the methods used by the French and Spanish. The English had already developed some of these habits in Ireland, where they had tried to conquer native Catholics and impose English control. In America, the English increasingly gave up on coexistence or assimilation. Instead, they used violence to seize land and secure control. War and disease devastated native communities. The colonists began to see a sharp divide between themselves and the peoples around them. At first, English Protestants had defined themselves against Spanish Catholics, but over time, that sense of superiority expanded beyond religion. It became a broader belief that English people had the right to dominate others in North America. And now, unlike in the early days of failure, they had the strength to enforce that belief. More colonies followed. Virginia was joined by Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Connecticut, South Carolina, North Carolina, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and finally Georgia. Together, these became the 13 English colonies that would later form the United States. Each colony had its own origins and character, but they were all connected to the same larger pattern: English migration, English law, English Protestant identity, land, hunger trade, and expansion at the expense of native peoples already living there. But none of it was guaranteed. If Jamestown had failed completely, England's colonial project in North America might have collapsed from discouragement. Roanoke had already disappeared. Newfoundland had failed. Popham had failed. Jamestown nearly failed too. What saved it was tobacco. That one crop turned a dying settlement into a profitable colony. Profit brought more settlers. More settlers brought expansion. Expansion brought war, land seizure, and the destruction of native societies. And from that process, English America grew. So the English colonization of America was not a clean story of brave settlers simply building a new world. It was a story of rivalry with Spain, religious ambition, economic hunger, failed experiments, native assistance, tobacco wealth, and then violent expansion. England came late. It failed repeatedly. But once Jamestown survived, the door opened. And over the next century, those small settlements became the foundation of a new power across the Atlantic. Make sure to subscribe to our History channel and press the bell for more animated videos. Special thanks to our generous patrons who help us create these videos. Consider supporting the channel on Patreon to learn more about our productions and watch some videos before they go live. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.